Hello everyone, this is Pras and welcome to the FPL Wire team selection video that I do on a weekly basis. This is game week 7 and I've picked the thumbnail for a reason. Like I've picked Haaland doing meditation because a lot of people who wildcarded, or even actually if it didn't wildcard, it was one of those swingy weeks that we'll see a lot of this year. And so I wanted to have a chat a little bit before I start on my team selection on why you should stay calm. You should not be knee jerking because this will happen a lot. There will be periods where you have a Haaland, or you don't have Haaland and Haaland scores a hat trick. You don't have a Palmer, he scores all these goals. There are so many good picks, and we talked about this in the main pod. But I think more than that, what I want to say is a lot of people are freaking out with rank movements, and it's not just about ranks are too close because that's the popular way, right? People will say, look, it's only 20 points between 2 million and 200,000. Now, that may be true, but I think there's a bigger reason why people shouldn't worry about rank this early. It's simply that the longer you go, the skill outweighs the luck. And that's because you're making decisions on a weekly basis. If you keep making good decisions over 38 game weeks, it'll far outweigh your decisions over 6 game weeks where you may have made good ones but got unlucky. And then the third most important one is whenever wildcards are in play, like some people that you're competing with that are ahead of you in rank have basically got a great game week 1 team and then also hit it out of the park in game week 6 or game week 5, whenever they wildcarded. But now the business end starts when basically the wildcards are out of the way. For a lot of people, that is the case. And once the wildcards are out of the way, you don't have a bailout. If you make mistakes, you will have to live with those mistakes for a very long time. And so give it a couple of weeks, let the information come through. You, the engaged manager, with your underlying data, with your patience, and with your content from the FPL Wire, you should do better. And so I just wanted to start with this, that if you've had a bad start to the season, if you've had a bad start to the wild card, it doesn't matter. Right now, it doesn't matter. We'll sit here in 12, 13, game week 13, and you'll be much better. There was this very nice chart that FPL Analytic does on Twitter, which basically shows the Elite 1000, basically the review managers, who always start, this early season at around, 3 million, 4 million, and then end up always in the higher ranks. So there's a reason for that. So a lot of what I said basically transforms into that rank movement. And so, long season to go. If you've already made your transfers, it's okay. Don't be too hard on yourselves. But if you haven't, good. You're my people. You are waiting. You're patient. And you're going to be, you will attack the fixtures when you see, and you're not going to knee jerk. Anyway, enough of therapy. Let's move to my game week 6 result now. Just because I've had a good season and I loved talking about this section, I'm not going to hide away from it this week. I think this was beautiful. Like a game week like this is beautiful because it really tests your patience, your love for the game. Because how can you call it? How can you call Arsenal not keeping a clean sheet home to Leicester? How can you not call basically Saka blanking in a week where he creates a ton of chances, Haaland blanking for the first time. And on top of that, the players that you don't own, or at least in my case, the players that I don't own, they do well. Salah decides to get a penalty this week. Palmer decides to do what he did. The Rodgers, Villa being terrible, still Rodgers coming away with the first goal that he scored all season. So all of that just adds up and makes it very funny. Like I just take it as, fine, it is what it is. You will get in a season about 3, 4, 5 game weeks like this. Just take it, laugh it off and move on. Like it's probabilistically very unlikely for this to happen more than 3, 4 times, like I mentioned. So if it's happened, just move on. It's not the end of the world. So that's all I have to say about this week. And what's more important is how does your team look going forward? You have to really think about hop on, hop off. Now, I've not done it this week as such because I wanted to use the international break to really talk about fixtures going forward. I feel like people who had good fixtures in 6, like a Saka, like a Palmer, I would say City's fixtures are now very good for a while. Even Liverpool, a lot of people are sitting with Diaz, Trent, even Salah. Their fixtures are fine this week. So this isn't the week to be talking long-term fixtures. I think next week I'm going to do a deep dive on how do we hop between these semi-premiums. Are we going to be selling Haaland in Game Week 10? When are we going to get Salah? I think all of that I want to discuss with you guys. I also want to, going forward, break down the fixtures between now and Game Week 12 and then Game Week 12 and beyond, because I think that's a big fixture swing that is about to come. But that's for the next video. I think today's video, I want to keep it short. I want to keep it simple, because there's not a lot you should be doing, especially if you've wildcarded. And if you haven't wildcarded, you should be targeting towards the window, whether that's Game Week 8, whether that's Game Week 12. So again, I repeat, I don't think there's a lot of decisions to be made this week. So I will keep it simple. So let's go to Rob T. So like I said, no fixtures this week. I will have that in due course, but let's go to Rob T's graphic. So this basically makes the point that I was making, which is everyone is close to 3 Arsenal at the moment. So no panic. If you're on double Arsenal defense, great. If you're on double Arsenal attack, fine. If you're looking for a third Arsenal, I think it's a decent window to hop on one, especially if you're dead ending. Now, I know all the things around dead ending may not be needed now with rolling through the wildcard, but still, I think it's a fixture that you can target. Over 3 predicted goals is good, is very good. You don't get too many fixtures like this. And even clean sheet odds over 50%, great. Like, I would expect, what this is saying is it's very likely to be a 3-0 win. So that's Arsenal. Then let's go to Man City. A lot of people have Haaland. A lot of people have Rico Lewis. Not a lot of people have Edison. But, two City is common. People are thinking about Foden. If we get a leak, should we go there? Maybe. I think what this is saying is 2.65 is basically the second best. I would still say be very careful with your semi-premiums. Whoever you're going for, your transfers are precious. Get them for blocks. So I like people who went Palmer last week, you get them for the long term. But even Palmer's fixtures short term, there was a nice block. But if you go for Liverpool, people got Salah, there was a nice block, 1-6 or 1-8 even. So with Man City, if you're going for Foden, then don't get FOMO later that you want a Son or you want a Saka or a Palmer. Then you get him, and that's your semi-premium. So that's what I have to say about City. I think City defense, Guardiola looked good. Rico Lewis, if he starts. So any combination should be decent this week. Then you have Chelsea. Chelsea home to Nottingham Forest. I mean, people are saying Nottingham Forest good defense. They're still predicted to score 2.5 goals. So I think if you are already on Palmer, great. If you're joining the Palmer party, this is probably the last week that you have to join. Otherwise, you're going to wait till maybe Game Week 12. Now, there could be some instances where people jump after Saka's game next week and then they jump into Palmer. That could be a hop-on point as well. But you could go there if you wanted to, if your funds allow, and if it's not taking crazy hits to get there. I think if you can get there for free, worth it. Like, I could have done it earlier this week. I could have done Mikolenko plus Palmer instead of Trent and Diaz. I just didn't think that Liverpool is a sell this week. And they're fourth here. So again, it's very, it's actually very symmetric. Like, good teams, Arsenal, City, Chelsea, Liverpool, and Spurs is a common theme as the top 5 defenses, as the top 5 attacks. And therefore, I feel those are the teams that will be the mainstay in our teams for long term, and how you hop on, hop off them will be the key. So, if you have, for example, a Solanke, I think away to Brighton, almost 2 expected goals is great. Like, I'm happy to have Havertz this week, but I'll be switching him very soon. So Spurs is going to come into our conversation very, very soon. And then in defense, I think this week, again, like I said, Arsenal, City, Liverpool, Chelsea, all good. And I think even Brentford isn't too bad, although 29% gets to the lower end of where I'd want to start a defender. But it's fine. So I think that's fairly clear this week. Have your expectations a little bit tapered by Semenyo. Those of you who own him, 1.7 is okay. It's not the same game home to Southampton as Leicester. Also, if you have DCL or if you have Rodgers, again, these are all okay numbers. Like, Everton are actually quite low. But we'll talk about DCL versus Rodgers that I have as a dilemma in my team. So there we are. That's about it. So let's come to my team now. I am starting Edison. Rico Lewis, Trent, Gabriel. So basically, not double defense, not double Arsenal defense, but instead double Man City defense. We'll see how many of these guys actually start, but it is what it is. That's what it is on paper. And then I'm keeping faith with Trent. I see a lot of people losing faith in Trent, and at the moment, I'm not there yet. I'm not convinced that he's an easy sell. For me, his price ceiling is way above other defenders, and so when I compare him to people who they're switching to, I tend to think a third premium plus a 4.5 defender versus Trent plus a good midfielder. I still prefer Trent plus good midfielder, but who that good midfielder is, that's the question, because it's not so easy. At the moment, it's Diaz, and that's my midfielder who's starting. But Liverpool's the early kickoff. We'll find out. Hopefully, we should find out if Diaz is starting or not. And by the way, in the next slide, I'm going to talk about some of the league scenarios. So wait for that. Then I've got Saka as my vice captain. I haven't really given captaincy as much of a thought, not because I don't think it's close. I think it's reasonably close, but I'm not going to do it. I just think Haaland's ceiling is there. Home fixture, Fulham. Now, Saka has a ceiling, but not a hat-trick ceiling. Haaland has the hat-trick ceiling. So I'm going with Haaland. Semenyo, like I said, decent pick. Like, I'm okay to start him this week, but after that, he's probably going to be going to my bench. Bumo home to Wolves is fine. Havertz, very bullish. This is probably the last week I have Havertz, so hopefully he leaves a nice parting gift. And then DCL, who's playing home to Newcastle. So now, benching decision between DCL and Rodgers, it's not clear. Last week, obviously, I was burnt. Rodgers scored and DCL didn't do much, but he was close. Like that chance he created for Doucouré, that one-on-one that he missed, he's going to get, for me, more minutes than Rodgers, because Rodgers just played 90 for the full game against Bayern Munich. I think opposition strength is similar, no matter how much you make fun of Man United. And he's on penalties. So for me, he plays above Rodgers. He's there as my insurance if anything goes wrong. If there's a leak, if there's an unknown injury or somebody doesn't start and doesn't get minutes. So I don't mind him. And then, of course, I have Pinnock on the bench. So here are my league scenarios if things basically don't work out. And this weekend, Saturday, like I said, the early fixture is Liverpool. So we should probably get news for them. And sometimes we get Man City news as well, because it's a Saturday game as well. So if there is no news, I'm rolling. So the team that I've just shown previously will be the team I go with. If there is news that Diaz is benched, now there are certain people of this camp that if Diaz is benched against tired legs, I want him to play 30 minutes. I'm not of that camp, right? So I'm going to play Rodgers instead and roll. And the reason I want to roll is, like, you could go Brennan Johnson, who just scored again tonight. This is Thursday night. He is in red hot form. But I just think that taking 3 free transfers to next week will be pretty powerful. And if I can do that, then I can do a lot more things. Like, it doesn't have to be Rodgers. It can be many other options that I can consider by selling Havertz, by selling Diaz, maybe even Trent or a Semenyo. So a lot of options open up. And so I would rather do that with 3 free transfers over the international break. So if I can, I will roll. If Rico Lewis is benched, I don't want to sell Rico Lewis. So unlike Diaz, who I'm ready to sell, I'm not going to sell Rico Lewis. The idea would be that I would play Pinnock, who's home to Wolves. So not a problem. I would play Pinnock and roll. But that is only if I hear Rico is not starting. If I don't hear anything, like I said, I'll stick with Rico starting and hope that either he starts or he doesn't come on if he doesn't start. Some unlikely scenarios, and I really hope this doesn't happen, but we need to talk about it anyway. If Trent is benched, then I think I will still be tempted to just play Pinnock and roll. But then that makes him a sell. So then I'm talking about a scenario where Trent will go for somebody to fund a upgrade for Diaz. This is why I don't want to get Johnson either. I don't want to commit to him, because there are moves with Trent that you could do to upgrade that Diaz spot to a Son, to a Palmer, if you wanted to. This is the scenario that I'm dreading the most, Ederson bench. And I'm dreading it the most because I went for Ederson as my pick so that I don't have to pick Raya, because I think Edison had better clean sheet fixtures over the next 6 compared to Raya, and I could have had a Havertz. But if he's not starting, then I'm keeperless. So if I get confirmed news he's not starting, I will have to basically accept a loss. I will have to accept and take the L, as people call it, and I will have to do Edison and Havertz to Raya and Solanke. Why would I do that? Why would I sell Havertz before this game? It's simply because Edison has to go to Raya at some point in the next 6 weeks, and Havertz has to go to Solanke next week. I would just do this move this week. So it would hurt a lot, but I can't be stubborn. I can't be that, oh, I had picked this, so now I will deal with the consequences. I'll just do it. So I wanted to put this out there. I really don't think Edison will be benched. That was just a midweek game where he didn't play. He didn't play the previous midweek game in the Carabao Cup either. So I think it's all fine, but you never know. Pep is Pep. And then finally, if Haaland is benched, so the doomsday scenario, I will not panic and sell Haaland. I will basically still start him. So in this case, unlike the Diaz case, I think if Haaland is benched, I'll still chance it that he comes on 30 minutes, gets a goal. I'll still start him, but I'll captain Saka instead. Those are all my scenarios. And that's where I land. Hopefully over the international break, a lot of thinking to be done. Hopefully I can take three free transfers in it, and then really almost, like a mini wildcard, but actually without a hit. So hopefully I can do it. Thank you for listening. Good luck, everyone, and see you next week.